Have you ever wondered why the history of the Moors in Spain is often overlooked or misrepresented in mainstream narratives? Why is it that a civilization that once ruled large parts of the Iberian Peninsula for nearly 800 years has become little more than a footnote in many history books? The Moors, African Muslims from North Africa, left a profound impact on European civilization, an influence that shaped architecture, science, philosophy, and culture in ways that we are still discovering today. Yet their story is too often buried beneath layers of myth, misunderstanding, and erasure. So why is it that such a remarkable chapter of history is so hidden from public knowledge? The Moors' contributions to science, culture, and architecture are extraordinary. In the fields of mathematics, astronomy, and medicine, the Moors introduced groundbreaking advancements that shaped the course of Western intellectual development. From the preservation and translation of ancient Greek and Roman texts to the introduction of sophisticated medical techniques, the Moors were instrumental in bringing knowledge from the ancient world back into circulation. Their contributions to architecture are even more tangible. Structures like the Alhambra in Granada stand as timeless symbols of their advanced engineering, artistic vision, and cultural fusion. Yet, despite these monumental achievements, their influence remains largely invisible in many of the stories we tell about European history. Why then is the true history of the Moors so often overlooked or misrepresented? Part of the answer lies in the way history is shaped and told. For centuries, the legacy of the Moors has been diminished, overshadowed by the dominant narratives of Christian and European power. The fall of Granada in 1492, marking the end of Muslim rule in Spain, is often framed as the reconquest of Spain by Christian forces, erasing the contributions of the Moors from the cultural fabric of Europe. However, this video is here to uncover the truth about how the Moors, with their rich cultural heritage, helped lay the foundations of modern Europe. In the following minutes, we will explore the history of the Moors in Europe, from their initial conquest of Spain to their lasting influence on architecture, science, and culture. We'll uncover the layers of history that have been buried and reveal how their remarkable legacy is still present in our world today. Join us as we rediscover the Moors' incredible impact on Europe, a history that deserves to be remembered. The Moors were a group of North African Muslims, primarily Berbers from the Maghreb region, who played a pivotal role in shaping the history of Spain and much of Europe. These Muslims, who followed the teachings of Islam, originated from a vast area encompassing present-day Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. In the early 8th century, the Moors were part of the larger Islamic expansion that spread rapidly across the Middle East, North Africa, and eventually into Europe. While the term Moors is often used to refer to all Muslims from North Africa during this period, it specifically encompassed the Berbers, a diverse and sophisticated group with a deep history of military and cultural prowess. The Berbers were known for their resilience, discipline, and knowledge, and they played a central role in the expansion of the Islamic world. The dramatic rise of the Moors in Europe began in 711 AD with the conquest of the Iberian Peninsula, which includes modern-day Spain and Portugal. At that time, the Iberian Peninsula was a patchwork of Christian kingdoms struggling for dominance. The Visigothic kingdom, which had ruled much of Spain, was weakened by internal division and a power vacuum after the death of its king, Roderick. Seizing on this opportunity, an army of Muslim Berbers, led by the general Tariq ibn Ziyad, crossed the Strait of Gibraltar from North Africa into Spain. This marked the beginning of what would become a nearly 800-year rule of Muslim governance over parts of the Iberian Peninsula. The invasion began with Tariq ibn Ziyad's bold landing at Gibraltar, which would later bear his name. The Muslim forces, which were vastly outnumbered by the Visigothic army, employed swift military tactics and strategic intelligence to defeat King Roderick's forces in the Battle of Guadalete. This battle, often regarded as a turning point in history, resulted in the death of King Roderick and the collapse of the Visigothic kingdom. Tariq's victory was decisive, and it opened the floodgates for the swift expansion of Muslim rule across the Iberian Peninsula. Within a few years, Muslim forces had captured the majority of Spain, including major cities such as Seville, Córdoba, and Toledo, leaving only a few Christian strongholds in the northern mountains. Following this rapid conquest, the Moors began to establish their rule, and over the next several decades, their presence in the Iberian Peninsula solidified. The Umayyad Caliphate, a powerful dynasty based in Damascus, was the ruling authority in the Muslim world at the time, and under its auspices, the Moors began to build their own distinct and powerful empire in Spain. In 756 AD, the governor of al-Andalus, the Muslim-controlled region of Spain, Abd al-Rahman al-Furs, declared himself emir of Córdoba, establishing the Umayyad Caliphate of Córdoba as an independent state. This marked a new phase in the Moors' rule in Spain, as Córdoba became the political, cultural, and economic heart of Islamic Spain. Under the Umayyad Caliphate of Córdoba, the city blossomed into one of the most advanced and prosperous urban centers of the medieval world. Córdoba was a center of intellectual and cultural activity, known for its impressive libraries, architectural wonders, and its role as a hub of scientific, philosophical, and theological discourse. Scholars, poets, and scientists from across the Muslim world, ranging from the Middle East to North Africa, gathered in Córdoba to exchange knowledge and ideas. The Caliphate's control extended far beyond the borders of the city, with Muslim rule spanning nearly the entire Iberian Peninsula for several centuries. Muslim Spain, known as al-Andalus, became a beacon of tolerance and intellectual exchange, where Muslims, Christians, and Jews lived in relative peace and harmony, working together to advance knowledge in a wide variety of fields, including mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and architecture. The establishment of the Umayyad Caliphate of Córdoba represented the height of Moorish power in Spain. The Caliphate was a model of cultural and intellectual flourishing, influencing not only Spain but the broader European continent. It was a time when scientific advancements were made, from the translation of ancient Greek texts to the development of new technologies in irrigation, architecture, and mathematics. It was also a time when the Moors introduced innovations that would later have a lasting impact on the development of Europe. The mathematical concepts of algebra and the Arabic numeral system, which replaced the Roman numeral system, were brought to Europe through the efforts of scholars in Córdoba. In addition to their contributions to science and culture, the Moors transformed the very landscape of Spain. The architectural styles they introduced, such as horseshoe arches, intricate tile work, and elaborate courtyards, became a hallmark of the region. The Great Mosque of Córdoba, with its iconic red and white striped arches and innovative design, remains one of the most iconic examples of Moorish architecture, representing the fusion of Islamic, Roman, and local Spanish styles. The Moors' influence on Spanish art, design, and urban planning has left an indelible mark on the region, and many of their architectural innovations are still evident in cities across Spain today. The rapid expansion of Muslim rule in Spain and the establishment of the Umayyad Caliphate of Córdoba marked the beginning of an era that would profoundly shape the history of the Iberian Peninsula and Europe as a whole. The Moors not only altered the political landscape of Spain, but they also transformed its culture, economy, and intellectual life, leaving a legacy that would echo through the centuries. Despite the eventual decline of Muslim rule in Spain, the influence of the Moors remained deeply embedded in the culture and architecture of Spain, and their contributions continue to be felt around the world today. The Moors' cultural and architectural influence on Spain and Europe is both profound and enduring, shaping the landscape of the Iberian Peninsula in ways that still resonate today. Among the most iconic symbols of Moorish architecture is the Alhambra in Granada, a stunning palace complex that serves as the epitome of Moorish design. The Alhambra's intricate designs, luxurious gardens, and sophisticated water systems are not just feats of engineering but also profound expressions of Islamic art and aesthetics. Built during the Nasrid dynasty in the 14th century, the Alhambra was intended to reflect the paradise on earth that Islamic teachings often speak of. Every room, every arch, and every courtyard in the Alhambra was meticulously designed to create a sense of peace and spiritual reflection. The palace's signature features, its delicate stucco work, arabesque patterns, and geometrically precise designs, demonstrate the Moors' deep appreciation for symmetry and proportion, both central principles in Islamic art. But it was the advanced water systems that made the Alhambra stand out. Intricate fountains and pools fed by a network of channels reflect the Moors' knowledge of engineering and hydraulics, showcasing their ability to combine beauty with functionality. The gardens, with their carefully cultivated plants and flowing water, were not merely decorative but designed as peaceful retreats, allowing visitors to experience tranquility in nature as the Quran describes paradise. In addition to the Alhambra, the Great Mosque of Córdoba stands as one of the most significant cultural and architectural achievements of the Moors in Spain. Initially built in the 8th century and expanded over time, the mosque was one of the largest and most impressive structures in the Islamic world. Its distinctive feature, the rows of horseshoe arches made of alternating red and white voussoirs, became a symbol of Islamic architecture, blending form and function in a way that was unprecedented in the Western world. The mosque's vast prayer hall, with over 800 columns made of marble, jasper, and granite, creates a sense of boundless space, reinforcing the idea of divine infinity. When the Christian Reconquista reclaimed Córdoba in the late 15th century, the mosque was converted into a cathedral. This transformation into the Cathedral of Córdoba is a stunning example of religious and architectural fusion. The contrast between the original Islamic design and the later Christian additions, such as the Renaissance-style nave inserted into the heart of the mosque, symbolizes the blending of cultures that defined the period of Moorish rule. It's a living testament to the coexistence of religious traditions, where both cultures left their mark on the city's architectural landscape. Beyond these iconic monuments, the Moors' influence on Spanish and European architecture is widespread and deeply embedded in everyday structures. One of the most noticeable elements of Moorish architecture in Spain is the use of arches, particularly the horseshoe arch, which became synonymous with Islamic design. The horseshoe arch not only provided structural integrity to large buildings, but also became an aesthetic feature that set Moorish architecture apart from the traditional Roman and Gothic styles that preceded it. This type of arch, along with the use of intricate tile work and ornate stucco decorations, can be found in countless buildings throughout Spain, from the Alhambra to small towns in Andalusia. The Moorish style also revolutionized the use of light and space, with the introduction of open courtyards surrounded by columns, and a reliance on natural light filtering through lattices. This approach to design emphasized openness, accessibility, and harmony with nature, principles that continue to influence modern architecture. The Moors' cultural and architectural influence on Spain and Europe is both profound and enduring, shaping the landscape of the Iberian Peninsula in ways that still resonate today. Among the most iconic symbols of Moorish architecture is the Alhambra in Granada, a stunning palace complex that serves as the epitome of Moorish design. The Alhambra's intricate designs, luxurious gardens, and sophisticated water systems are not just feats of engineering but also profound expressions of Islamic art and aesthetics. Built during the Nasrid dynasty in the 14th century, the Alhambra was intended to reflect the paradise on earth that Islamic teachings often speak of. Every room, every arch, and every courtyard in the Alhambra was meticulously designed to create a sense of peace and spiritual reflection. The palace's signature features, its delicate stucco work, arabesque patterns, and geometrically precise designs, demonstrate the Moors' deep appreciation for symmetry and proportion, both central principles in Islamic art. But it was the advanced water systems that made the Alhambra stand out. Intricate fountains and pools fed by a network of channels reflect the Moors' knowledge of engineering and hydraulics, showcasing their ability to combine beauty with functionality. The gardens, with their carefully cultivated plants and flowing water, were not merely decorative but designed as peaceful retreats, allowing visitors to experience tranquility in nature, as the Quran describes paradise. In addition to the Alhambra, the Great Mosque of Córdoba stands as one of the most significant cultural and architectural achievements of the Moors in Spain. Initially built in the 8th century and expanded over time, the mosque was one of the largest and most impressive structures in the Islamic world. Its distinctive feature, the rows of horseshoe arches made of alternating red and white voussoirs, became a symbol of Islamic architecture, blending form and function in a way that was unprecedented in the Western world. The mosque's vast prayer hall, with over 800 columns made of marble, jasper, and granite, creates a sense of boundless space, reinforcing the idea of divine infinity. When the Christian Reconquista reclaimed Córdoba in the late 15th century, the mosque was converted into a cathedral. This transformation into the Cathedral of Córdoba is a stunning example of religious and architectural fusion. The contrast between the original Islamic design and the later Christian additions, such as the Renaissance-style nave inserted into the heart of the mosque, symbolizes the blending of cultures that defined the period of Moorish rule. It's a living testament to the coexistence of religious traditions, where both cultures left their mark on the city's architectural landscape. Beyond these iconic monuments, the Moors' influence on Spanish and European architecture is widespread and deeply embedded in everyday structures. One of the most noticeable elements of Moorish architecture in Spain is the use of arches, particularly the horseshoe arch, which became synonymous with Islamic design. The horseshoe arch not only provided structural integrity to large buildings, but also became an aesthetic feature that set Moorish architecture apart from the traditional Roman and Gothic styles that preceded it. This type of arch, along with the use of intricate tile work and ornate stucco decorations, can be found in countless buildings throughout Spain, from the Alhambra to small towns in Andalusia. The Moorish style also revolutionized the use of light and space, with the introduction of open courtyards surrounded by columns, and a reliance on natural light filtering through lattices. This approach to design emphasized openness, accessibility, and harmony with nature, principles that continue to influence modern architecture. The Moors' contributions to science and education during their rule in Spain were not just impressive, they were revolutionary. Their advancements in mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy helped preserve and enhance the knowledge of the ancient world, while also laying the foundation for Europe's scientific revolution. During the Islamic Golden Age, scholars in al-Andalus, territory controlled by the Moors in Spain, were at the forefront of scientific progress. They translated Greek, Roman, and Persian texts into Arabic, preserving ancient knowledge that would otherwise have been lost during Europe's Dark Ages. The Moors took this inherited wisdom and pushed it further, making significant strides in mathematics and science that would eventually influence the European Renaissance. Perhaps one of the most profound contributions the Moors made was in the field of mathematics. The introduction of the Arabic numeral system, which replaced the cumbersome Roman numeral system, revolutionized arithmetic and made complex calculations more efficient. This system, including the concept of zero, laid the foundation for modern mathematics and was crucial in the development of algebra, geometry, and trigonometry. The word algebra itself comes from the Arabic word al-jabr, which means completion or rejoining. One of the most prominent mathematicians during this period, al-Khwarizmi, wrote foundational texts that influenced not only the Islamic world but also Europe. His work in algebra, as well as his contributions to the development of algorithms, directly impacted the European intellectual landscape. In astronomy, the Moors made several groundbreaking discoveries. They not only preserved the astronomical knowledge of the Greeks and Babylonians, but also made their own contributions, such as refining the Ptolemaic model of the universe. They developed accurate star charts and astronomical instruments, and in cities like Córdoba and Seville, observatories were built to track celestial bodies. These observations would later be referenced by European astronomers during the Renaissance. The Moors also introduced innovations in navigation, which allowed sailors to chart their journeys more accurately, fueling exploration during the Age of Discovery. In the field of medicine, the Moors made impressive strides as well. Scholars like Ibn Sina, Avicenna, and al-Zarawi, Abu al-Qasim, were pioneers in the study of human anatomy and surgery. Ibn Sina's The Canon of Medicine was a comprehensive medical encyclopedia that remained a standard textbook in European universities for centuries. Al-Zarawi, often referred to as the father of surgery, wrote Kitab al-Tasrif, which described surgical techniques that were far ahead of their time. His methods in treating wounds and fractures, along with his use of surgical instruments, formed the basis of modern surgery. These medical advancements were not only practical but also contributed to a deeper understanding of the human body, laying the groundwork for future scientific discoveries. Al-Andalus also became a center for intellectual exchange, with universities and libraries such as the ones in Córdoba, Toledo, and Seville being among the most advanced in the world. Scholars in these cities, both Muslim and Christian, collaborated and translated important works from Greek, Persian, and Indian scholars into Arabic and, later, into Latin. This exchange of knowledge created a flourishing environment of learning. In Córdoba, the city's library contained over 400,000 volumes, a staggering number for its time, making it one of the largest libraries in the world. Students and scholars traveled from all over Europe and the Middle East to study in al-Andalus, further cementing the region's role as a global hub for education and scientific research. The educational system under the Moors was also ahead of its time. The Moors believed in the importance of education for both men and women, and many of their schools, known as madrasas, became centers of learning where a wide range of subjects, ranging from theology to medicine, were taught. These institutions fostered an intellectual environment that emphasized critical thinking and the pursuit of knowledge. The Moors' focus on preserving and advancing knowledge played a crucial role in bridging the gap between the ancient world and the Renaissance, helping to ignite the intellectual revival that would sweep across Europe in the following centuries. In addition to preserving and expanding the knowledge of previous civilizations, the Moors made contributions that directly impacted the course of history. Their influence on education, science, and medicine provided the foundation for the intellectual climate that allowed Europe to emerge from the Dark Ages and into the Renaissance. The works of Moorish scholars were translated into Latin and spread throughout Europe, influencing thinkers such as Thomas Aquinas and Roger Bacon. The decline and eventual fall of the Moors in Spain marked the end of a remarkable era, but it was not a sudden collapse. Rather, it was the result of centuries of political, military, and cultural shifts that weakened the foundations of their rule. By the 11th century, the once unified Muslim territories in Spain began to fracture, leading to a period of internal strife. The Umayyad Caliphate of Córdoba, the heart of Moorish power in Spain, disintegrated in the early 11th century after the death of the last caliph, leading to a fragmented political landscape. This division resulted in the establishment of multiple smaller Muslim kingdoms, known as the taifas, which were often in conflict with each other and increasingly vulnerable to Christian expansion. The Christian Reconquista, a series of military campaigns aimed at reclaiming territories from the Moors, gained momentum during the 12th and 13th centuries. While the Moors still controlled significant parts of the Iberian Peninsula, they were losing ground. The Christian kingdoms, especially Castile, Aragon, and Navarre, began to push southward, taking advantage of the disunity among the Muslim states. One of the pivotal moments in the decline of Moorish Spain came in 1212 at the Battle of Las Navas de Tolosa, where a coalition of Christian forces decisively defeated the Almohads, the Muslim rulers of the southern part of Spain. This victory opened the way for further Christian expansion into the southern Iberian Peninsula. As the Christian forces continued to push south, the fall of the last Muslim stronghold in Spain, the Kingdom of Granada, became inevitable. Granada, the last Muslim kingdom in Spain, had survived for centuries by playing Christian kingdoms against each other. However, by the late 15th century, the Catholic monarchs Ferdinand II of Aragon and Isabella I of Castile united Spain and launched a final military campaign to capture Granada. In 1492, the fall of Granada marked the end of Muslim rule in Spain and the completion of the Christian Reconquista. The fall of Granada was not just a military victory, it symbolized the end of an era of cultural and intellectual flourishing in Spain. The Catholic monarchs issued the Alhambra decree in the same year, which ordered the expulsion of Jews and Muslims from Spain unless they converted to Christianity. This marked the beginning of a forced religious and cultural homogenization in Spain, which led to the suppression of Moorish culture and knowledge. The decline of the Moors, therefore, was not merely a loss of political power, but the beginning of a cultural erasure that would take centuries to reverse. The history of the Moors in Europe is a fascinating journey of conquest, cultural exchange, and lasting influence, a history that has often been hidden or overshadowed by the narratives of Christian and European power. From their initial conquest of Spain in 711 AD to their eventual decline and fall in 1492, the Moors reshaped the cultural, intellectual, and architectural landscape of Europe in ways that cannot be ignored. Their contributions to science, mathematics, medicine, and architecture were not just important at the time. They laid the very groundwork for the Renaissance and the intellectual revival that followed. We've seen how the Moors brought innovations that forever changed European civilization, from their advancements in algebra and astronomy to the beauty and grandeur of their architecture, such as the Alhambra and the great Mosque of Córdoba. The blending of Islamic, Christian, and Jewish cultures during this period created an intellectual and artistic climate that led to the flourishing of art, science, and philosophy. Yet the legacy of the Moors extends far beyond their time in Spain. The influence of their culture can still be felt today in everything from Spanish cuisine and language to modern architecture and scientific thought. As we conclude this exploration into the real history of the Moors in Europe, we are reminded of how important it is to uncover the stories that have been buried or misrepresented. The Moors were not just conquerors, they were a vital part of European history, whose contributions shaped the development of the continent and the world. Their legacy deserves to be celebrated and remembered, not just in history books, but in the streets, the buildings, and the cultures that continue to reflect their influence. So let us take this journey forward. If this video has sparked your curiosity about the Moors and their true place in European history, take the time to explore more, dig deeper, and share these stories with others. Don't forget to subscribe for more content and leave your thoughts in the comments. What part of the Moors' legacy fascinates you the most? Let's keep this conversation going and ensure their contributions are never forgotten.